Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. Two of the strongest relationships that we have in life is that between a husband and a wife and a parent and a child. And of course, the reverse is true as well between a wife and her husband and also a child to the parent. But these are some of the strongest relationships that we have in life. And in the book of Hosea, we have the Lord's relationship in relation to his people as being described in both of these ways. Early on in the book, we find God's relationship with Israel being described as that between a husband and a wife. And then later on, around chapter 11, we'll see God's relationship with his people being described as that between a parent and a child. And this shows the immense and intense love God has for his people. And we should really be thankful that a God so powerful, so mighty, so high above us would relate to us in such a way. But as we get into the first part of the book, we find that the relationship that God had with Israel was a very dysfunctional one, on the side of Israel, that is. He has Hosea go out and marry a person who was given to prostitution, and that was to be a symbol of the fact that God's own people, his own wife, metaphorically speaking, had also played the prostitute and had gone out and served other gods and loved other gods and had strayed away from God, who had really wooed her in the wilderness and made a covenant with her and took care of her. And yet she wandered far away, seeking other gods. And as we think about that, we think, wow, that's a pretty bad relationship. And we might wonder, why did God have Hosea go out and marry this prostitute, even though it did have this symbolic meaning? But we could also ask the question, well, why did God get in a relationship with the people who would stray away from him in such a way? And of course, the answer to that is love. God still loved the people, even though they had strayed from him so much. And even in our text today, we'll find some elements of restoration where God is going to win people back from the people of Israel, also calling to himself those who were not his people. But of course, a foreshadowing or a looking ahead to the gospel, the time of the gospel when Christ would die and God would win back his people in that way. And so here we have described for us just a great love that God has for us, but also a great lesson for us to say, you know what, God does love us so much, and he's done so much for us in order to establish a relationship with us and to get into this covenant relationship with us, that we should not go out and play the prostitute. In other words, we should not go out and love other things above God. This is our warning as we read James chapter 4, where James is speaking to Christians who were getting very worldly, and they were very selfish in the way that they were dealing with each other. They were fighting and slandering one another, quarreling with one another. And he says in James chapter 4, he says, starting in verse 2, you lust and you do not have, so you commit murder. You are envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures. You adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God? So even in the church, we can become, in a sense, adulteresses as we begin to live for ourselves, and then we start to seek things from the world that only God can provide, and we start trading what we have with God with the things of the world. And it's something that we have to guard against. We definitely don't want to be involved in idol worship, whether it's bowing down to a statue or bowing down to other things where we allow our possessions to possess us and to basically take God out of the picture in our lives. If you remember, we read in 1 John, at the very end of 1 John, in chapter 5 and verse 21, this was the last encouragement that we had in that book. It says, little children, guard yourselves from idols. And it's something that can always plague us. Anything that we place above God, anything that we trust above God, anything that we can't keep our minds off of and distracts us away from God can be seen as an idol. And whenever we are involved in idols, we are basically robbing God of the love that he deserves, and the love that he, and it robs us from expressing the love and returning the love that he has given to us. And so we should always put the Lord first, be devoted to him above everything else, and to show him the love and devotion that he certainly deserves. So these are some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.